It's bell time, and we're back for another State of Pro Wrestling. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, the Lakers Fast Break, and, of course, the State of Pro Wrestling. Please like, follow, subscribe, 5 stars, whatever you can do to support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. And if you really like what we do with the State of Pro Wrestling and more, please go ahead and follow us, like, subscribe, whatever you can do to support us. It is greatly appreciated by everyone here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. As far as the State of Pro Wrestling is concerned, he is the mastermind behind Matt Talk. No, not that kind of Matt. Another kind of Matt. And the PVD Cast. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today on those great shows, starting with the PVDcast.com. It is Mr. John Orlando. And John, my tag team partner, tagging you in, my friend. Go ahead and make sure you beat up on those jobbers and jabronis.
Really you got it. I will do my best to give them the big boot and then follow up with the leg drop.
There you go. Get that 1, 2, 3. All right. Absolutely. I'll get kind of mad because I'm sitting there in the corner holding the tag up. Say, man, tag me in, tag me back in. Oh, man, you got the cover. You got the glory. All right, I'll get the next one. All right, what can I say?
As long as I don't have eyes for Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, that's a deep and dark, sordid story from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. I feel like I would be, I can't wait. Was Elizabeth ever an episode on Dark Side of the Ring from Vice? I don't think as of yet.
No, I don't think she has been either.
I think she will be at some point in time. You rest assured. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you watched season 5 so far?
We've seen some of them.
Okay.
And they're getting kind of formulaic. Dark Side of the Ring just seems to, and they don't care what's true and what's not. They just, if it's titillating and, sensational, they're just going to go ahead and put it on there, that show anyways. But it's a guilty watch. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a guilty watch, depending on the wrestler that I want to identify with. Like the Bruises Beefcake, I only got through a little way through. Chris Adams, because of my extended time watching World Class, I actually watched that episode through and through. So yeah, there's been some good episodes, and whatnot. I liked last season better than this season, but I think they're running out of main candidates. But Elizabeth, obviously, is going to be a good one. But can't wait till they do that 10-parter on Vince McMahon.
Yes, that will be a series for sure. In fact, I just saw they're doing a series called The Death of WCW or something along those lines. I don't think that's
they are managed to be produced by the guy who was just accused of chronic laziness on the set of Red Notice, The Rock. So yes, which is weird. I cannot see chronic laziness, quote unquote, behind the scenes and The Rock. I just don't see those two getting, with his kind of schedule, I just don't see those two ever meshing. But yes, I do know he is executive producing The Death of WCW. So I'm interested to see how that relates to the book by Brian Alvarez. And I think R.D. Reynolds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I read that way back when it first came out, The Death of WCW. So I'm interested to see if that's the case. I will keep my eye on that from Vice. So, my friend, any thoughts on The Death of WCW? I mean, before we head into the episode?
No, not really. I will say this. I did enjoy, in the very first StarCast, I went to Chicago. I really did enjoy the Eric Bischoff, R.D. Reynolds kind of face-off / panel discussion, because a lot of things that I didn't think I thought I knew, I really didn't know. Like, I didn't realize that Thunder cost $40,000 an episode to put on. And Bischoff exclaimed, I'm supposed to produce the show on Thursday night.
400,000, I believe.
Really? Was it 400? I thought
it can't be 40,000. That's not too bad of a price. Okay, well, you're probably right on that. Okay. So,
but he didn't have the 40. There was no expenditure increase from Time Warner, so he was shooting on with what money am I going to use? It was interesting. It really did kind of feel a little bit bad for Bischoff. That's one thing I got to say in that discussion, in that presentation, whatever you want to call it, that panel discussion. He seemed to be kind of be more or less of, I would say, would be regular Eric and not showman Eric Bischoff. If that
Okay,
makes
so Thunder costs between 12 million and 15 million per year, just to let you know.
sense. Okay. Okay.
Yes. So it was probably around 400,000 an episode or
Okay.
something like thereabouts. But yeah, it was pretty pricey those final days. But again, that's something we may go into on a future episode. We'll
Yeah,
go
I'd
devote
love to
a-
discuss
yeah,
it.
as far as some of these deaths of some of these famous promotions and go into that indeed. But it is a state of pro wrestling right now. We are talking about as many big promotions that aren't dead yet, although one is trying hard on national television to do so. And there's one that later on in the episode we may talk about, which I don't even know is still around because, their owner is probably traveling with Smashing Pumpkins right about now. But when it comes right down to it, John, I first want to talk about the promotion that is getting most of the talk, yet it's not getting most of the audience. And that is All Elite Wrestling right now, because obviously they've done some things within recent times in regards to Swerve Strickland. Congratulations. He is the new AEW World Champion. I also want to go ahead and mention that they had a recent angle involving Tony Khan, CEO, the guy that's the money man and owner of All Elite Wrestling, involving him and the Elite, including the return of Jack Perry. I will say, as I predicated this with the picture of the only good part of this angle where Tony Khan gets beat up, and I put that in quotations, by the Elite, is the part where he thought he was reconciling with Jack Perry, and Jack Perry gives that nod, that sly wink to the camera, because we all knew what was coming up next. And unfortunately, it was I'll just say this. I don't want to say it's the worst sell job ever by Tony Khan for any human being that's been in a professional wrestling ring, because, there has been quite a bit, bad stuff I've seen over the course of my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But he sells like Vince McMahon. And that's not a good thing, John.
No,
Your thoughts on this leading angle? I mean, you have Swerve Strickland. You just put him as your world champion, and immediately you're pushing him off to the side to go ahead and promote this. I don't know. People are calling it a NWO wannabe angle, but still, it's just an angle where, yes, it's getting attention. He did wear the neck brace during the NFL draft. Tony Khan did, and he did make comments about the WWE with the neck brace on it, as far as saying the WWE is like Harvey Weinstein and all that, disparaging and all that stuff. But your thoughts on this angle? Is it going to be something that's going to propel this company back from some falling ratings and declining attendance? Is it going to be able to propel this company back into the forefront this summer?
This angle is not going to propel AEW this summer. Look, wrestling oftentimes is repetitive. You see an angle done in one promotion, and then it's done in another promotion 6 months later, or 3 months later, or a year later. It's always happened that way. But this angle, the fans just aren't there for it. They don't care. I think the Young Bucks have outstayed their welcome. I really do. I think they need to, if they want to truly be EVPs, go to the back and run things from the back. I feel like, and you look at some of the ratings, the rating dips. When do the rating dips happen? It happens when the Bucks are on. Sorry, I know that that's going to probably get a lot of heat for you, Gerald, from fans are watching this and listening to this, but
they're a very divisive duo. I will just say this. I mean, when they finish their careers, we're good. I mean, the debate will be is how good do you evaluate them? Do you evaluate them as an all-time team, or do you evaluate them as an indie tag team that got a lucky break? I'm somewhere in the middle. I do not think they are as good as a lot of other people think they are, as far as AEW hardcores, but I also don't think they are as bad as other people, like, for instance, Jim Cornette and some others that have really criticized them. I think they fall somewhere in the middle for me, but I don't think they are certain. Like, for instance, when you came to when we talked about the as far as the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. I certainly don't think they are worthy Hall of Famers. I just think they were a good tag team, crossed the Indies in Japan, did well, got a nice spot in AEW, and had a nice career. But I don't equate that with a top tier all-time team. So they're very fortunate to be in a spot. They got it right place, right time with the Bullet Club and Hot Topic and all that, and how they correlated that into a great position with Tony Khan as EVP's actual executive vice president in real life for AEW. They got to give them credit for doing that, because whether you talk about their legacy in a good or bad way, they've done, at least as far as for themselves, a lot of favors in getting where they're at.
Look, I will say this. I don't know, and I've always felt this way with the Young Bucks. I don't know if they're good wrestlers, but they are good athletes, because you have to have cardio to go as fast as they go. I've always said that. Like that to me is impressive. Now, whether you like how they wrestle or you don't like how they wrestle, I think you gotta at least say they are in pretty darn good shape, even though they're not jacked, like Hercules Hernandez or somebody like that. They are in good cardio shape, and they can run those ropes and they can do those high flying maneuvers, and it doesn't look like they miss a step. But I think at this time, the audience is just, how can we miss you if you never go away? I know that's a saying that we've mentioned already, Jim Cornette on the show, but he always says it, and I agree. You have to step away in order for the fans to miss you and care that you come back. And I feel like that's what the Bucks got to do. And look, Swerve Strickland has become one of the hottest baby faces that the company has had. They put the world title on him, and deservedly so. But now the very first Dynamite where he's the champion, he wrestles somebody that I don't know that much about, some Kyle Fletcher fellow that's with Don Callis, and they go like 15, 20 minutes. No, that you can't showcase a world champion by letting him go 15 to 20 minutes with a guy you hardly know,
who's been losing most of the time,
right.
Somehow has retained a Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor just needs to go at this point. You've just totally discarded Ring of Honor at this point, and it's just absolutely ridiculous that you keep on that. But again, both companies did something similar, but how it was packaged and presented was entirely different. They both had non-title. Let's just put it this challenger match or whatever they call it. It's a non-title match. A non-title match with Swerve Strickland and Kyle Fletcher. Instead of celebrating, Swerve Strickland's victory, and just really putting it out in the forefront, they put him immediately into a 20-minute match with a guy, again, who's lost virtually every week on television in recent weeks on AEW television. So, and then on the converse side, and they put it right in the front, right at the beginning of the AEW television show, instead of putting something like that in the main event. Conversely, the WWE does the same thing and puts Cody Rhodes in a non-title match against Carmelo Hayes, but promoting Carmelo Hayes as the number one draft pick, which we'll get into in a few minutes. They put him out there and put him out in there for 8-9 minutes, but to showcase what the future could be for Carmelo Hayes, and they put it on as the main event of the evening. It just, they did the same. Both companies did, if on the surface, hear me out, on the black and white, they did the same exact thing, but how they packaged and they presented it was totally different. And ultimately, the lasting effects of what you got from it are totally different as well.
Okay, and I agree. I feel like Dynamite should have started with the limo pulls up in the back, Nana gets out, Swerve gets out, they make their way to the ring. I know that sometimes I complain about, oh, this promo went 15 minutes at the beginning of the show, but here's where it would work. Here's where it would work, where Swerve thanking the fans and doing rah, 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 and then have somebody that's a much better mid-card talent come out and challenge for the main event. And I think I agree with you on Cody and Carmelo. I do, Gerald. But the thing is, I think WWE fans, they kind of know a little bit about Carmelo. Carmelo hasn't been on a losing streak.
He
like
came
Kyle
hot
Fletcher.
off of the NXT. He did lose to Trick Williams in the cage, but again, that was the graduation. It's like a
Yeah.
promotion. It's like you're going from one promotion to the other. You lose on your way out of NXT before you go to WWE. But like you said, they had a great knowledge of him. He had been promoted a lot better through NXT than Kyle Fletcher and ROH. But can we get rid of the non-titles? If you know already the results of both of these, can you just put the title on the line? Maybe you attract more people, but you didn't advertise it. You didn't
No.
advertise if you're AEW. You didn't advertise that match. You also didn't advertise the WWE didn't advertise Carmelo Hayes and Cody Rhodes, which again, to me, is kind of a little bit an issue as well. But you didn't advertise Swerve Strickland as far as his match. You didn't advertise the gauntlet match for the international title number one contender that you knew already that Will Ospreay, your shining light right now in the company, you put him on a platform, yet you chose not to go ahead and advertise it. Your angle at the very end that's supposed to get everyone talking, where Tony Khan gets quote unquote injured, you didn't promote that and put that ahead of time as far as advertising. None of this was advertised, and I just think it's a debacle, and I think it's just rudimentary booking and advertising 101 that needs to be followed in order for this to get to be a better product for AEW, and they're just not doing it.
I have to ask, and again, I don't know. I watched Dynamite, but I didn't really research it. Why were they at Daly's place? Was that a scheduled stop?
Yes,
On
because
there? Okay.
that's their home base, because
Okay.
Jacksonville, Florida, the Cons, they own the Jaguars. Then the very next day, after Tony Khan got injured, he went to the draft. You
Mm-hmm.
saw him with the neck collar on there. So it's all tied in to where they had to be right there in Jacksonville, Florida. It all ties in, just to let you know.
Okay, because that's why I was wondering, because they've been advertising all these other arenas, and then all of a sudden 1 week they're at Daly's place, and I just was curious about why did that happen? Why did they go down that way? Not that really, I don't know if that really makes a difference or not to the show, but AEW, excuse me, sorry, AEW has to start building new stars. Bottom line. And they have to, once they build them, like Swerve Strickland, they have to learn how to use them effectively. And I think with Swerve, that's a fine example. I think Hangman and Page, another example. They built him well, but then they misused him. It's going to not, I hate to say this because I really do like her work, but it's going to happen to Deonna Purrazzo as well. Is that they're going to build her up, and then they're just going to waste her talent away. And that women's division is nonsensical, is the best way I can say. From what I watched on Dynamite, Anna Jay took on the Japanese wrestler. I don't remember her name, but why is this Japanese wrestler important? Like, to me, I was bored. I didn't care because there was no build for her. There was only what Excalibur told me, in which that's fine, but I need a reason to care. I need a reason to believe that this match is important. To me, it was just a throwaway match, and I feel like a lot of the women's division is that anymore.
Once again, it is the state of pro wrestling. It is John Orlando from the PVDCast. Thank you so much for checking us out here. Please go ahead and check out the PVDCast along with Matt Talk. So go ahead and check out those great shows today, wherever you get your podcasts. I do want to mention, though, again, when it comes right down to it, AEW has some things it needs to take care of. It perpetuates this angle. We talked about it. It has a lot of injury issues as well. But also the fact, like you said, the misuse of certain talents. I know while everybody's waiting for a return of MJF, who's still on the shelf. I believe he had surgery here in recent days, so he is still on the shelf. He's going to be for quite some time. Samoa Joe, what do you do with him? Kristen Cage, who, again, you could have executed that whole, I guess, feud between him and Adam Copeland, aka Edge, so much better than what you did. Now he has disappeared when he was the biggest and brightest heel that you had. and you chose to not go ahead and now not doing anything with him. So I don't know. I just don't understand what all these components are that they have, and yet are not allowed to utilize them. They have 5 hours of television, John, each and every week, in any given week, outside of any preemptions because of hockey or basketball. But your thoughts on this, my friend? What do you do to make things right as you get closer to All Out coming up later this summer?
Well, I think number one, you need to start promoting what you're going to show on your TV shows. I think that there definitely has to be there has to be there's got to be a vision, and that, I guess, maybe that's the best thing, or the best way to describe it is, to me, there doesn't seem to be a vision. It seems to be that Tony sits down and, hey, for this show we're going to do this versus this, this versus this versus this, and then next week maybe 3 or 4 of those things will carry over, and the rest are just tossed away. And so you can't build any interest. Like, I am not interested in a Chuck Taylor Trent Barretta feud. I'm just not. I like Trent Barretta. I really do. I think he's talented. But the way that they've used him and the way that they've used Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy, look, they're all been predominantly comedy wrestlers, and now you want me to believe that Trent is going to be this dastardly heel to try to destroy Orange Cassidy. I'm not buying it. There's just got to be some forethought in long-term booking. If we want to end up in Wembley with Will Ospreay, for an example, who does he have to face, and how does he have to face those adversities to get him there? It's simple. It's not rocket science. Though I'll give Tony credit. I did enjoy the kayfabe of having the neck brace on during the draft. That was nice. But did he capitalize real quickly? I know I'm going off on a tangent. Did he capitalize on any type of notice he would get from that neck brace? Well, he did, and not in a very good way. Did he translate that into sound bites, shall we say?
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, there's still much to discuss, but yes, AEW does have a lot of issues. I mean, we could go on this all day as far as what we would do differently, how it would be booked. Again, with 5 hours, it just seems so scattershot. And it just seems like it's a lot there. Again, Ring of Honor is totally being wasted. It just needs to be put to rest because you've totally wasted it as a promotion. It's just, I don't get what they're doing as far as organization and whatnot. They just seemed so, there's such a lack of focus and such a not a tightly run ship. It just seems like it's not coordinated very well, and I think that's the problem. But again, there's many problems with All Elite Wrestling, but we will see if they can last through the summer as far as on a high note, or if things are going to fall even further for them. I know that their ratings have been bouncing around all over the place. Sometimes it's been pretty good. For like AEW Collision just had its highest ratings with the NBA lead-in, and then also the NBA destroyed Dynamite a couple weeks ago and last week in regards to the ratings there. So it's feast or famine right now for AEW, but we will see. The one thing I want to go ahead and ask, though, is the WWE, as it heads into the summer, coming off the high of WrestleMania 40. I know you and I didn't do a recap show, but there is a recap show from you on the PVDcast.
That's true.
Where you share your thoughts on it. Overall, I thought it was an interesting 2 nights, some hits and misses, as WWE always has to do. It just has its hits and misses. But what it did in getting Cody Rhodes over, I think is about as best you can do. And the fact that everybody, including The Rock, played nice to allow that to happen, I think was obviously a feat in and of itself. And by the way, did you know it's the Triple H era? Just wanted to make sure, because that has only been beaten over your head like 15,000 times. I just want to let you know. So it's just, again, and now that we see Stephanie McMahon back, she was back last night for the draft and all that good stuff. So, yeah. So interesting how these things work out in WWE. Just, one McMahon goes, another one comes back. So yeah, but I will ask you though, my friend, it is the WWE. It is Cody Rhodes taking a new era for the WWE, but it all starts what you do in the summer months, and the summer months are usually or traditionally a house show reliant period of time. Yes, they're going to have the King of the Ring and of course other pay-per-views leading into SummerSlam, but they are very reliant on their house shows during this period of time. So be that as it may, my friend, the draft for both SmackDown and Raw have just completed. Where do you see the WWE going behind, or actually a lot of it on the back? Because again, for me, it starts and stops with the WWE champion, who I consider to be the man, the myth, the legend himself, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes.
I think for the summer, the WWE just needs to keep the status quo. Keep doing what you're doing. I mean, let's be honest. They're selling out arenas. All right, we hear about how many sellouts that they've had. What is it? Are we up to 16 or something like that?
There are quite a few. They're not selling out every night. They did have their streak broken, I think, a couple weeks ago. But they are consistently. They just had one of the highest non-televised, as far as attended events in wrestling history overseas, in London for an event at the O2 Arena, as far as gate is concerned. So they're a hot product right now. I mean, I know that the words are out there and the social media is out there that pro wrestling is hot again. Pro wrestling is hot. It's on its way up. It's doing well, especially the WWE. But I don't want to say it's like a boom period of time. It's not the Attitude Era yet. It's not the Hulkamania period yet, but it is on the way up a little bit with the numbers that I see from what we see at WWE. Not necessarily who's watching on TV, but those actually attending arenas, spending money on the WWE. That's going up, and that's what counts a lot.
You took the words right out of my mouth when you said making money, because I was going to say that's the other thing. They're selling out arenas. They are making money. I don't know about you, but I haven't read about too much discontent in the locker room. So people are being professional. They may not get along, but they're being professional.
Guys like Drew, yeah, exactly. With CM Punk there, people are kind of saying, okay, we're dealing with them. We're cool with them. Drew McIntyre, who was a lot of questions as far as whether or not he would stay in WWE, is staying in WWE. He just signed a 3-year contract. So yeah, people are saying, you know what? I'm liking what I see from the WWE. I'm going to stay on this train for a little while longer.
Yeah, I think they just continue to do what they're doing. And again, whatever tweaks they have to make around, injuries or whatnot. I mean, that you can't predict. You can't predict that Rhea Ripley is going to go out with an injury. But I think that they covered that
Dominic
well.
Mysterio.
Dominic Mysterio, exactly, as another one I was just going to mention. So you have to be able to roll with the punches. I think they've done a pretty decent job with that as well in the Paul Levesque era. I'm going to try to say as many times on this episode.
Triple H era. Did you know?
So WWE, just keep on doing what you're doing. And there were some interesting shakeups, if you will, with the draft. And I'll be honest, I did not pay attention last night. I was engulfed in getting podcasting episodes done, so I did not check out the draft from yesterday. But
in the end, doesn't really matter, my friend. If they want somebody on the Monday night show to stop by on Friday night, guess what? They will. They break their own rules like 2 weeks later. They break their own rules.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break on that.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the reasons why last night while I was recording and editing podcasts, I was like, it's not a real big deal if I don't see it, because it's the draft. It's in name only is it an event.
I'm still not a big favor of that. I'm still thinking that you should always rotate and keep the product fresh by having your wrestlers and not letting the fans know ahead of time, or less advertising it ahead of time, that they're popping on this show, then they're popping on that show. The way it used to be. I really don't like going up on Old Man up on the lit, right there on the lawn, yelling about how things used to be. And I'm not how should I say this? I've been watching wrestling for decades now. Yes, everybody has an admiration that's lived as long as I have about the Attitude Era. I look more at the Attitude Era as far as from ratings and response. Storylines, okay. Some of them were good, some were not. I like the fact that they made wrestling important from the top to the bottom. You know, at least the WWE did. They accentuated storylines from there. But it's just the fact that right now I would like to see the fact that you could watch a certain wrestler be on this show and then maybe they would appear on that show or maybe appear on the other show. Now it's just like, okay, they're sort of fixed to Raw and SmackDown supposedly. But then again, you know, if it's important enough, they'll just put them on whatever show they want. But yeah, it just sometimes bothers me the little things that they do as far as the structure behind the WWE, but it is structured, and that's more than what you could say for AEW.
Agreed tenfold on that. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, for all the negatives that we could say about AEW, there are glimmers of hope. All right, that if they would just adjust some things, take small baby steps. That's all we're saying. Take small baby steps and then work up to, you know, running that marathon, so to speak. Just, I don't know what more to say other than that. Is baby steps on fixing the things that you know are wrong. And unless Tony Khan is totally oblivious and totally just not even present mentally, or he's so aloof, he's got to hear what other people are saying. You know, he's got to hear what other people. The interview that leaked out about Kenny Omega on his Twitch channel playing video games, like, that spoke volumes. That spoke volumes about how he answered those questions about everything that's been going on in AEW for the last year or so.
It's again showing the footage in the first place. I think it was a mistake, and then trying to compound on it with an angle when you really can't finish it off because CM Punk isn't coming back to AEW anytime soon. So he is the major heel in this organization. You know, he's the major player in two organizations right now. And that doesn't make really a whole lot of sense for AEW. But then again, with WWE, like, you know, we could always nitpick at what they're doing, storylines, what have you. I'm still not in love with the fact Damian Priest is considered a world champion at this point in time, because I just don't think he just moves the needle far enough for me or anyone else. It's just the fact that, okay, yeah, they realized that he had the money in the bank so long. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. So it is what it is. But I will ask you this, my friend, when it comes right down to it, what do you foresee? I foresee good. If they're able to retain 80% of what they had right around the time of WrestleMania, because we know, just like the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs, people come around only for those times of time, you know, periods of time. They only stop by to go ahead and check that out. Then they don't catch the regular season or anything like that. They don't catch what's going on the other 10 months of the year, but they lead into WrestleMania. They retain 80% of their viewership and audience during the course of summer. I think that's a win for the WWE.
I would agree, because you're also competing with, you know, outdoor activities and vacations, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd say, yeah, if they can hold on to 80%, that's a good number, actually, Gerald. That's a very good number. I'd say I agree with that 80% of what they have coming into WrestleMania throughout the summer and getting to, I'm curious to see what they do with SummerSlam being here in Cleveland, Ohio, up at the Brown Stadium, whatever its first financial. No, it's not First Financial Field. It doesn't matter what the name is. It's Brown Stadium as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, so I'm curious to see what they're going to present for that pay-per-view spectacular.
I'm curious to see, you know, what's upcoming for the next WrestleMania. I hear rumors that it might be taking place again here in Vegas. I don't think it's going to be taking place in the converted Caesar's Palace parking lot / tennis place, as far as the arena that I went to back, I think it was WrestleMania 9 or something like that. Yeah. That was, man, I got sunburned and I watched a crappy card, and I'll leave it at that. But so I got double whammy, but need I digress on that.
You didn't enjoy that Giant Gonzalez match?
Oh my gosh. Well, I love being there. I didn't realize I didn't love it as much when I got the sunburn an hour later when I realized that. But I just, you knew it was something special, and I'll leave it. I've been to 2 WrestleManias, and I just, it's the something special part that gets me. And my other WrestleMania I've spoken about, and I don't have good memories of that one for other reasons, nothing relating to the WWE. But yeah, for I guess Las Vegas, it would be great to have it back in Allegiant Stadium. So we'll see. But again, it is the state of pro wrestling. It is John Orlando from the PVDcast, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much for watching this thing. Before we hit all the other smaller, or as many smaller and other promotions that are out there, I want to go ahead and ask you this. When it comes to the WWE and AEW, I don't see it as a 1-2. I don't see it as a WCW, WWF battle like it was in the Attitude Era. I know that, with recent comments that were made, controversial comments that were made by AEW wrestlers and by President Tony Khan, they want to try to perpetuate that. And in return, the jabs are a little bit more subtle, but they're still there by WWE, especially Triple H, when he kind of sent a jab out to Will Ospreay. And I just don't think that AEW should respond to them. I think they should chart their own path and focus in on that, but they continually get bothered by what WWE says and does, and I think that's part of the problem.
You are giving the WWE free advertising, so to speak, Tony Khan, when you make statements about them, right? Like that. Why get into the bad mouth game? Just leave it be. Let Triple H make his snide comments. Have your roster listen. Don't respond. Don't get on Twitter. Don't get on social media and respond to it. Ignore it. Move on. Because again, you're just going to perpetuate more of it from WWE land. So stop it. Just don't focus on. We just talked about a million things you could be focusing on with your company. Focus on that, not what other people in WWE are saying about your company.
It really hurts them when they go ahead and mention, or say anything in relation to the WWE and AEW. Just chart your own path. And I think that was the best thing about it in their early years, their 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. They were charting their own path. They were the small engine that could. They were the little engine that could, climbing up that hill, providing excitement, providing great wrestling matches, and trying to do whatever. And people were giving them a pass. They say, okay, maybe it's a little sloppy or a little bit his and that. Maybe I do it differently. But you know what? It's All Elite Wrestling. Hey, they're growing to a spot. They're trying to get there. They're the little engine that could. Okay, we'll give them a pass. They're doing some decent things there. But now they're just kind of coming off as arrogant. And the problem is the gap, which after All In last year kind of seemed to be closing in a little bit on the WWE, has widened. And I think that's the bigger picture, John, is that the gap has widened since then. AEW has failed to capitalize on whatever momentum they had coming out of it. Instead, it was all the controversy behind the scenes, CM Punk being let go, et cetera, et cetera. And it just seems like they are reading too much into what's going on in the internet and needs to focus in on more on what's going on with the product in the ring.
It's like when you watch a football game and the home team scores and it's now 45-7, and then that opposing team, they make a big play, and then they're all happy about it. But what does the home team do? Points to the scoreboard. That's what matters. That's what matters, Tony, is that you have a great product that can make money and entertain fans. Who cares what someone else is saying on Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever? Who cares? You, as we have just sit here and talk for the last 3 or 4 minutes, you got to focus on your own house. And yes, it's widening. It's widening. And at this point, I think one of those smaller companies might end up jumping into the number 2 slot rather than AEW.
So let's discuss this, my friend. And once again,
Okay.
It is John Orlando for the PVDcast. Please go ahead and check out the great things that he's doing today at the PVDcast and Matt Talk. Talking some good Matlock at Matt Talk right there for you. Wanted to ask you this. So there are other companies out there. We always focus here on AEW and WWE because actually right now in this world, yes, there's a lot of promotions that are doing okay, but there's the WWE few steps below, like we talked about. That gap is widened. You got AEW, and then you've got, I'd say, New Japan right below them and everyone else. So with that said in mind, let's go ahead and talk about some of these other prospective companies right there, including New Japan. Now, the wrestling scene in Japan is not what it once was. Let's
No.
just beat around the bush. You and I, when we first started the tape trading in the late 80s, I did in the 90s, whatnot, we were talking about Korakuen Hall, Tokyo Dome being, what, 10, 20, 30,000, 40,000 people filling out those stadiums, filling out those arenas, night in, night out, classic 5-star matches, dozens, and I repeat the word dozens of promotions within the confines of Japan. And we know how large Japan is as a country. It's islands. It's not that large, comparatively speaking. So that just tells you how big it was at that point in time. Just the list of promotions was seemingly endless, but there are still promotions out there, including one that is going to be starting up in Marigold that splintered off with the owner and one of the founders of Stardom moving off. But it's interesting to see with New Japan, they're still trying to make their headway here in the States. I don't know, after seeing it now take place for what, 4, 5, 6 years now, John, if going ahead and still trying to force their way into the US market with a show here, a show there. I don't know what purpose that really serves. I just don't know who they're kidding, because it was great when they first started going to MSG.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and
right.
they sold that out for time, and they did great, and they were able to go ahead and capitalize a little bit on that, but they have not been able to sustain that. They still get 4, 5, 6,000 people to shows when they run them here in the States, but I'm more interested about how they're trying to go ahead and fix what's going on in Japan to get them back up to where they used to be, selling out so much, and also as well providing the best shows on the planet at the Tokyo Dome every January.
So let me ask you, Gerald, what do you think is the main cause of this slump for Japanese business? Do you think it is the fact that like New Japan is stretching itself too thin? Because they're promoting shows over here and promoting shows in Japan, and that's not, that's a long distance. Even if you're going to the West Coast, it's still pretty long flight or whatnot. Do you think it's that they're spreading themselves too thin? Do you think it is that maybe Japan has always relied on the big bad foreigners, and it seems maybe some of those new foreign menaces are not that menacing?
Well, that's the part of it. The gaijins for New Japan wrestling, or for Japanese wrestling, it is not what it once was. I mean, there's still some decent names out there. John Moxley, there's some decent names out there, but it is not the who's who of professional wrestling. I mean, back in the day, and here we go, old man on the lawn type deal again, John. Back in the day, you had the top names in the business. You had Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. You had Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody. You had Abdullah the Butcher. You had top names that were draws in the industry all over the world, still making Japanese or wrestling or Japan in and of itself a priority for them as far as going there, doing tours, making money over there. So it just seems like to me that the emphasis, I'd say after the mid 2000s, it kind of dropped off as far as how important Japan as a wrestling, I guess, beacon was as far as overall to the industry itself. And which is a shame because, again, a lot of pro wrestling, what we've seen today and what we'll see in the future, should be owed a debt of gratitude to the country of Japan and the world of pro wrestling.
Yeah, well, I just real quickly looked up the list of New Japan, the roster, and there are some of those big bad guy Jim, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Lance Archer, certainly intimidating, but
he's not a name. He's a guy who does jobs here on AEW.
Exactly what I was going to say is that you have these individuals who are coming over to the United States and they're not being pushed as monsters. Look, I mean, Brody was awesome in Japan because he protected the gimmick and he wouldn't lose in the United States or anywhere else in the world. He built that gimmick up. Lance Archer has lost to a variety of folks that are probably maybe not even at his level, for an example. All right. So if he goes to Japan, I mean, is he going to get the same reaction?
Yeah. So I ask you, my friend, I mean, the alliances are starting to form up in Japan, ones that'll side with AEW, actually all over the world, quite frankly, in Mexico as well. We see the alliances of the different associations, CMLL and AAA. They're siding with one organization or another. It's interesting, though, that, Rossy Ogawa, who, again, left Stardom, the top women's company in Japan, to create his own company that's upcoming here with it just in not too distant future. That would be Marigold. Very interesting to see how this play out as far as the WWE kind of saying, you know what, maybe we'll go ahead and help you out here, whereas AEW will continue to help and support Stardom. So I ask you, my friend, how is it interesting that the two top companies in the US are looking to go ahead and provide some assistance to certain individual operations overseas?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't there been some All Japan guys that are contracted to work in the WWE?
Well, in the past.
Past, okay, but I thought that they had over the last few months.
No, it's usually when a wrestler in Japan. Let's take the Damage Control ladies, Io Sky, Asuka, and also Kairi Sane. When they left, their contracts were completed in full before they signed with the WWE. The same thing with Shinsuke Nakamura. They're finished. Their work is completed. They rarely do WWE get a wrestler who is active on another promotion. Now they do grant from rare time to times, allow them to go ahead and wrestle on other promotions. Shinsuke Nakamura, while he was in Japan, was allowed to go ahead and wrestle on another promotion's card, but that's them giving permission to do so. So that's pretty much the way. It's like the other way around from AEW, where New Japan wrestlers with their forbidden door policy go in and out all the time from AEW wrestling.
I would say that I find it interesting that WWE is going to reach out and help with this new female promotion from Japan. It would be good training for a lot of their NXT wrestlers. Yes, absolutely. I totally agree. Absolutely. It would be a place where, we've had a few releases, Xia Li being one of them. Maybe that would have been, if that was established as a possible conduit, maybe she could have went there and either been a talent agent or wrestled or whatnot. There could be some more, to me, that's just another avenue, just like NXT. So I think that's interesting. I think that on the other hand, though, the Japanese promotions have to be wary of just making sure that this is going to be a good back and forth deal, shall we say. So there's, reciprocal, if you will, in its nature, and not allow either the WWE or AEW to cherry pick the best talent and then leave talent that's maybe, i.e. Gilia at this movie coming up soon. Absolutely. She was there at the Hall of Fame, wasn't she? Yep. And she's still going to help Rossy Ogawa start this promotion, but I think it's when everybody's assuming now it's pretty much, it's not verified yet, but it's pretty much, I guess, a done deal that once she gets that off the ground, as far as that promotion is concerned, she's heading over to NXT and WWE, so which will be another great addition for them. Let's hope that, well, again, what I told you before WrestleMania may take place, or hopefully she could get some wins at WrestleMania. And we'll leave it at that as far as okay. For a minute, yeah, I don't want to really go there on air because again, it's just I was completely confused, Joe. I'm like,
I did do some research, and when he passed away, all respects to his family, Akibono. Remember, he is, I think, the only Japanese wrestler to win at WrestleMania because he won that sumo match against the Big Show.
The Big Show. Yeah.
So, there you go.
I was totally lost. I got to be honest with you. You were speaking in code, and I'm like, I don't know what the heck he's talking about.
Well, again, I don't want to.
Then it
clicked.
clicked.
When you go accuse the WWE of certain things, or just say I don't want to accuse. I just want to say certain patterns have formed that I'm not exactly in love with when it comes to the WWE. But then again, that's like 30, 40 years. I've always thought that they should do things differently. So again, need I digress on that? But before we head on out, my friend, I wanted to go ahead and touch on some of the other organizations and what they're going to be doing hopefully this year. I do know, again, New Japan will be laying its imprint still here in the U.S., but Impact Wrestling, this has gone back and forth, my friend. I don't know what to make of it. I remember I told you it was the company I thought was most destined to fail, but I don't know about that now. We'll see. Again, the parting of the ways between them and President Scott D'Amore earlier this year. People just were sad for like all of 2 seconds as far as the roster is concerned. Then they moved on because, as you know, that Scott D'Amore wasn't paying them. Impact was. So they've gone on with their product and continued on. In fact, they're doing stuff here in Vegas every now and then, still at the Palms. They haven't recreated the kind of spark that they had at the beginning of the year when the last time they were at the Palms, but they haven't crashed and burned either. So what are your thoughts on Impact Wrestling, my friend?
I'm very afraid for Impact. I believe that I read one of their last pay-per-views did not do very well buy-wise. To me, that is a little bit concerning. I've said before that I think they have a lot of talented people on that roster, but there's some of that talent has been around for a while. And again, going back to what we said at the beginning of the episode, how can we miss you if you never go away? And I think there's about 4 or 5 folks that if they took a little time off and maybe went somewhere else and applied their trade, that maybe they would make a bigger, pun intended, impact on the roster for TNA. But they do have those sweet action figures from Power Town Wrestling, though.
True, but again, when your audience is only 100,000 on a weekly basis, I don't know. I mean, they are getting some influx of talent. Mustafa Ali, who I thought was wronged in the WWE because I think he has an immense amount of talent. I also think Nick Nemeth, but Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, his time was done. He had spent so many years there. They just really had nothing really left to do for him. So I'm glad he is finding success both at Impact and in Mexico. So I'm really happy for his success because he just, I believe, got the AAA title away that he did. So I'm happy for his success because it's always nice to see these guys when they're released. And I know that there's been several releases right after WrestleMania of some wrestlers that I'm going to keep an eye on. But I really, really am hoping that those individuals find success because it's interesting. Alberto Del Rio is still around and still wrestling, and he did lose the title to Nick Nemeth. So.
I was going to say that. I was going to say he beat Alberto Del Rio, whom I didn't know was even still a thing.
Yes. Well, we'll see what happens again with Impact. Although I'm not strong on their future, but we'll see how they were able to survive. They've been able to survive. They're like a cockroach. They've been able to survive all these years. We'll see. MLW, even though it has lost their 2 top superstars the past few years, Hammerstone and Jacob Fatu, because Jacob Fatu has signed with the WWE and Hammerstone has signed with Impact. I think Hammerstone still deserves a chance from one of the big 2. I just think that people are missing out on him. But again, MLW has that money they got recently from WWE, and that could go a long way if you pattern it out right. So I don't want to underestimate Court Bauer. But the company I want to talk to you about, and it's not one of the Mexican companies because we'll go in and touch on that last as far as Lucha Libre is concerned. The company I really want to talk to you about before we head on out is the NWA. I want to ask you, because our prospects are for this summer, the question is, I haven't heard about anything going on in the NWA in weeks. What the hell is going on with the NWA? John, can you give me a heads up on what you think is going on with the NWA when you get a chance here? Because it really is starting to irritate me, because I've heard no mentions of their show, no mentions of any supercards, no mentions of any TV, no mentions of anything going on within the world of what's going on with the NWA right now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if anything will come up with the NWA. John, have I got you back, man? Live and in living color? Oh, looks like you're shutting down again, my friend. So your internet is going bye-bye. Your internet's putting a sleeper hold on you right now. So I want to go ahead and you with me, John? I haven't got you back yet on your volume.
Hold on.
Okay, there you go. There you go.
Am I there? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what happened. It was just very weird.
If you were downloading something on another thing, yeah, people.
No, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Something hiccuped. I don't know,
well, I'm gonna just stretch this out to an hour 5, just to let you know, because I cut a few minutes out of this. But all right, as I rephrase the question to you,
I heard the question. What's up with
what the hell is going on with the NWA?
Well, what do you mean? They got that Nacelle Company has teamed up with Billy Corgan to do that wonderful behind the scenes TV show that they're going to do. That's going to draw in the ratings.
That's the only thing I've heard mentioned. But what about the product out in the ring? Is there anything going on?
There is nothing going on in the NWA. I actually, truth be told, follow them on Threads just to keep tabs on what's going on. And it seems like they do a terrible job of promoting their TV show, because they'll tell you exactly what's going on in their little recaps on Instagram and Threads. So I don't know. There's some talented people down there, but again, I think they got a great idea of pairing up with these independent companies that they're doing. Like in Cleveland, there's a company that they pair up with to run shows. That's great. That's fantastic. But the bottom line is the exposure is zero. So you got to find a way to boost that up. And we've said it before. NWA had such momentum in 2018, 2019, and then the pandemic, and then all the mass exodus of people to AEW.
Yeah. But right now, I don't see a product worth watching or spending any time with in the NWA. Absolutely. Just I think it's worthless, and I think that could be which is a shame that it's going to come to a crashing end like this with the NWA, but I think it's going to come to a crashing end sooner rather than later for Billy Corgan's NWA.
If I'm a gambling man, I'm putting the money on the NWA as well to go under. Sorry.
I just don't know what they're doing. Ever since that pay-per-view, the one where they had James Mitchell snorting cocaine, and I put that in parentheses, on live television. I think that was the death. You talk about certain moments in time where promotions have that one thing that really just put them to bed or put the nail in the coffin. I really think if the NWA goes down, that James Mitchell snorting coke on a live pay-per-view, I think that was it. I think
yes. I agree with you. That was not a very wise decision,
because they lost their ability to go ahead, because they were being put on. There was a chance they were going to be put on a broadcast network, CW network, and that all went out the door after Zach saw that. Yeah, absolutely. So, my friend, always great to have you here. But before we give everybody a rundown of what's going on at the PVDcast and Matt Talk, I want to go ahead and just give some love again to our good friends down south in Mexico with CMLL, AAA. I would love to see a revival of Puerto Rico wrestling, although I know it's like a little bit of a bittersweet moment because of what happened with Bruiser Brody. So I do know it's one of these days we got to devote an episode to that as well. I know we've talked about it before on the show, but I would love to devote an episode on the life of Bruiser Brody and the death of Bruiser Brody as well, because I love to remind people of it every now and then, because it is unsolved murder that seemingly everybody knows should be solved, but isn't. But need I digress on that? Let's go to Lucha Libre and Mexico with CMLL and AAA. The decades have gone by, my friend, and there are other promotions that pop up like Crash and others every now and then that seem to get the headlines for a little while. But in the end, my friend, it always seems to come down to AAA and CMLL.
Their longevity is impressive, but the thing that I do know from listening to some other wrestling podcasts, the ownership and the leadership has always been very solid. Peñas, yep, absolutely. They ran it like a business. All right, and made decisions that are smart. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure somebody could send in a comment, what about this angle, blah 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 blah, or whatnot. Yeah, absolutely. But I think for the most part, the leadership in both CMLL and AAA have been very solid, consistent, and that has meant many decades of great wrestling and great superstars coming out of there. Let's be honest. You think about all the luchadors that came up through WCW and ECW and exposed to the American market. That was good, not only just for that wrestler, but also for that promotion as well, because it's getting American eyes on the product who then would probably check out CMLL or AAA.
The thing is, though, I do want to say that AEW has provided a good platform. So does WWE to an extent, signing several Lucha Libre wrestlers from those organizations and giving them opportunities here in the States. And for that, I am very grateful to both those companies. As much as we smack AEW, they do have a lot of international wrestlers that they're giving opportunities to. And as we'll go on over the course of the next few months, we'll talk about how they promote those international wrestlers. That may be another story, but the fact that they do give them jobs and are paying them well for their efforts is greatly appreciated by me.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
So before we head on out, my friend, we have covered most of what's going on in the world of pro wrestling as best we can within the span of an hour, but need I digress on stopping by with a update from you on what's going on with the PVD cast and, of course, everybody's favorite, Matt Talk.
Well, for those that don't know, Matt Talk is a podcast that I help produce along with my partner, Jason Taylor. And basically what we do is we review and discuss episodes of Matlock. That's right. The 80s lawyer show featuring Andy Griffith is a guilty pleasure of both myself and my partner. And we are working our way through season 5. We're up on season 5. We just recorded on Sunday an episode called The Madam, which was quite an episode, and I'll leave it as that. As for the PVD cast, this week I talked to an author who is writing a wrestling fiction book called Olivia the Mighty Kraken. And that individual, by the way, is Frank James Bailey. So definitely check it out. If you wanted to get a little bit of my insight, my thoughts about the Stanley Cup playoffs, which are going on right now, last week's episode, myself and hockey enthusiast Luke Landry sit down and give our predictions, our thoughts, our comments, our insights. He makes fun of the Maple Leafs. But anyways, you can check that out, pvdcast.com or wherever you find great podcasts.
Don't even talk to me about that, my friend, because my Golden Knights just choked 2 games at home when they were up 2-0. So don't even talk to me about it. They play horrible at home all the time. They've got the best home crowd on the planet for any sports team, period. The atmosphere there is unreal. Absolutely unreal. I showed you when I was at the box. Was it. Yeah. And it's absolutely, they play terrible. I don't understand. It's just like they win on the road, but they lose at home in front of the best crowd in the NHL. It just boggles my mind. But okay. All right. It is what it is, my friend. But once again, please go ahead and check out John Orlando's Matt Talk. And of course, everything going on at the PVD Cast, wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, the PVDcast.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I wanted to thank you again for stopping by, but any last thoughts or what's coming up for our next bout coming up this time next month?
Hey, I'm game to talk wrestling, any type of topic of wrestling. You want to pitch it out there? I'll gladly come on and discuss it. As I tell you many times, I always look forward to these episodes. I enjoy sitting and chatting with you and expressing our opinions, whether they may be right or wrong. Who cares? We enjoy doing it. So, folks, just go out and enjoy wrestling. Whatever it is that's your cup of tea when it comes to wrestling, enjoy it, have fun, and just be a happy fan. There you go. Be a happy fan.
Well, we'll definitely update everyone out there what's going on in the world of wrestling next time out. But, we don't even touch on very much, like I did only glimpses of in the show. We don't even touch on the history of pro wrestling. So we've got a vast history of pro wrestling we can always touch on if it ever gets slow in pro wrestling. But you know what? With all the stuff behind the scenes, John, that's hard to do.
I was going to say, there's never going to be a day that we don't have something to discuss because somebody's going to do something stupid or something fantastic. And we either need to talk about the stupid or talk about the fantastic.
That we do indeed. Or we could get back in the ring again to defend our titles one more time.
You got it.
Yeah, absolutely. But once again, it's my tag team partner, John Orlando. Please go ahead and check out what he's doing today at PVDCast.com. John, always great to have you here. Always great to have you talk pro wrestling with me on the State of Pro Wrestling right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.